Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here. Locked On Big 12 podcast. Today, it is the 3rd of April, 2022, and we have a national championship game that is set up to talk about. A Big 12 team will be in it. It is your Final Four breakdown. We've got two games to get to, a fantastic night of college basketball to talk about, to break down from so many different angles, a championship game to look forward to as well. Let you guys know first, today's show is brought to you by our friends at Stat Hero. More on them later, but fun show coming up as we break down two colossal matchups that happened last night in college hoops.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so I'll take the glasses off for this part right here. If you're watching on YouTube, taking them off just to prevent the glare from happening. But a couple general thoughts. So Carolina gets through Duke, and we'll talk about that in the matchup and everything. But Kansas gets the win, and once again, we'll get to all of that. But the important thing for the conference here, this is a conference show. It's not just a KU show, although we are going to be celebrating the Jayhawks, even though I'm wearing my Missouri stuff today, but celebrating the Jayhawks in a very significant way. But let's celebrate the conference, because in the last three tournaments that have happened, right? 2020 does not happen, 2019, 2021, and now 2022, a Big 12 team will be playing on Monday night in the national championship game. Not only that, it's three separate Big 12 teams. Texas Tech in 2019, and they were on the razor's edge of winning a national title. Baylor wins it last season back in 2021. And now Kansas is your favorite in a game against North Carolina, and they are favored to win the national championship here now in the year 2022. There was so much discussion about what would happen to this conference without Oklahoma and Texas. And yes, football is king. Football does drive a lot in this country. But the NCAA tournament is still a billion-dollar business. This is still a massive entity. I'm sure you're going to see the ratings for last night's games, the Blue Bloods in the Final Four, and I'm sure the ratings for Kansas and Villanova will not be as good as the ratings for Duke and Carolina. But this is a sport now where the Big 12 is dominant, and they're not winning every single national title, but the ACC to me they are the crown jewel of basketball. People like to say the Big East, but the Big East has changed so much. Big part of that is they lost some of the teams, right, that were in the Big East. And now you've got a situation where Syracuse and Louisville are, along with Duke and North Carolina. Duke, Carolina, and Virginia are the three powers in if you look in the ACC, right? If you look at the national championships in college basketball, the ACC has had a real stranglehold on the national championship, just in terms of on a 5-year stretches as of late. You go back now to, let's go to 2015. All right. So go back to 2015. Okay. Duke wins it. Then Villanova wins the next year. Runner up is North Carolina. North Carolina wins it in 17 over Gonzaga. In 18, you had Villanova beating Michigan. Then you have Virginia over Texas Tech in 2019. 2021 was really the first time that we, in a while, that we haven't seen the ACC factor in a major way there at the very end, that in 2018 with Villanova and Michigan. But you look at that stretch that the ACC put together. Look, 15 Duke titles, 17 Carolina title, 19 Virginia title, three separate teams winning it in 6 years. But it's fair to assess the ACC this year is having a down year. It was a down conference this year, but still, when tournament time came around, their team stepped it up in a big way, got 3 in the Elite Eight, got 2 in the Final Four, and created a matchup where we were guaranteed an ACC team. The ACC has been the best basketball conference for a long time. The Big 12 is up there now, right with them in I think in a current sense. But if you're going to go super current, like a year-to-year basis, the Big 12 is now the best basketball conference in all of college basketball, because they've sent 3 separate teams in 3 consecutive seasons. There was no break, right? There was no break for these 3 schools to go There was one after the other. And, while Baylor and KU were the perennial powers and now they've gotten their chance to go, one of those two felt like they were destined to at least make a Final Four. And let's be honest, back in 2020, KU would have been your presumptive favorite to win the national championship heading in to that tournament. So this is a tournament. This is an era right now where the Big 12 is producing the best teams, and it's a different team because the test is always stiff. Yeah, the defense is great, but you're getting to address different problems on a night in and night out basis in the Big 12. You're having to deal with Baylor and the small ball. You have to deal with Texas and Texas Tech and the no middle defense. You have to deal with guys like on tough nights, Nigel, or on off nights, I guess you could say, Nigel Pack, and then guys like Avery Anderson on an off night in Oklahoma State, right? Guys like Taz Sherman on what we'd call an off night in the Big 12. Those are the guys that you have to deal with. A league where Oklahoma can beat Baylor and beat Arkansas in a season and have a really good year and not make the NCAA tournament. This league, and also the league went 6-0, right? They went 6-0 and were a missed foul call away from having TCU in the basically TCU into the Sweet 16, beating a 1 seed in Arizona, right? I know you can say, oh, what about the Carolina Baylor game? Baylor won the title last year, and it's the best record of any Power 5 school in the last 3 seasons. Kansas has now become the winningest program in college basketball history. They've retaken that, and they might be retaking that mantle on the way to Bill Self's second national championship. They're about to induct Bob Huggins into the Basketball Hall of Fame right now, and it was a down year for them too. Right now, this conference, just you look top to bottom, sure, there are up-and-comers all over the place in different conferences, but this conference, between stars and coaches and style of play, they're putting everything together. You're seeing it right now come to fruition. These teams know how to handle, generally speaking, all the different kinds of tests because you see them all the time in the Big 12. So the Big 12, 3 straight years, 3 straight teams a national title, and the team that they just sent in KU is going to be favored, and so the Big 12 might get back-to-back champions. That's what we're looking at right now. All right, so let's take a quick break here, and then we'll get to these games specifically when we get back. First, a quick word from our sponsors. We'll put the old glasses on for the ad read. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Stat Hero, guys. The NCAA tournament is coming down the stretch. We're almost at the end here. So if you guys want to get in on the Stat Hero action for college basketball, they've got other stuff as well. But for college basketball, now is the time. So this is Stat Hero really is fantasy sports the way it's meant to be played. They give you guys head-to-head matchups that you guys can predict and pick. All right, so they'll give you Baycott versus McCormick, or Davis, Manic, and Baycott against Martin, Arbaji, and McCormick, stuff like that, head to head, and it's worth playing. Right now, if you guys go to Stat Hero, you guys can find the app. It's available in most states. Use the promo code Locked On, LOCKEDON, Locked On. You'll receive a 100% deposit bonus today. Once again, stathero.com/locked on, promo code Locked On. All right, let's get to these games. So last night, the first game was Kansas 81, Villanova 65. So this one, was just a red hot start from KU. And then Villanova makes that little push. They were only -5 in the second half, but they made a little push there. This game ends up being a 16-point game. Once again, it was close at a certain point, but this was the best offensive output that you're going to see against a Jay Wright Villanova team. Any ounce of space, Kansas took advantage of. The one thing I was miffed about during this broadcast, I was frustrated about the broadcasters were like, feed it to McCormick. Where's Agbaji been? They were Martin's not getting going. They were complaining, and all the while KU was hitting different parts of their offense. It was all working for them last night. Sure, they had a red hot shooting game, and that's rare. But I mean, this team's got that kind of offense in them. But that was frustrating last night. They were using all parts of the game last night. 10 for 12 was David McCormick, 25 points and 9 boards. Oshai Abaji has 21 points on 6 of 8 shooting, 6 for 7 from beyond the arc for Oshai. All of his field goal makes came from beyond the arc. Christian Brown had a couple big shots. People were saying, where's Christian Brown? He has 10 and 5, all 10 come in that second half. DeJuan Harris hits 3 big threes. That was the option they were leaving open. A lot of times on the double to McCormick, that was or they got caught in rotations too. Villanova did. The guy that was open was DeJuan Harris, and he delivered going 3 for 5 from 3. This was not a game where they needed Remy Martin to really step up and play that well. Martin, in 21 minutes, scores 3 points, but they dominate. KU dominates. 54% from the floor, 54% from 3, and they go 10 of 13 from the free throw line on the evening. This was about as comprehensive of an offensive performance as we've seen from the Jayhawks all season long. Villanova did their best to get in their faces. I was surprised the game was as close as it was late. Villanova did have a push, and they cut it to 5 at one point, but Kansas all night just had all of the answers, time and time again. And so I think that Bill Self's team showing up when I asked Jesse Newell earlier this week, what's the best game that Kansas has played this season? What was the best one we talked about, whatever? This is your answer. This was the best game they played all year. From an offensive standpoint, sure, maybe defensively, not always great, but they held Villanova sub 40% from the floor, 42% from 3, which is pretty good. They were 13 of 31, and 8 of 10 from the line. So not a bad night for Villanova, but Kansas's offense, everything was working. When I spoke earlier in the season, I said KU is the most talented team in the Big 12. I said that pretty consistently, and I felt like, look, we love Tech and the way they play. Really good team. Texas, a lot of talent, right? Good team. Baylor, defending national champions. They've got a lot of talent too this year. Good team. The one team that puts it all together that will be the best is KU. And people have said not the most talented team, not Bill Self's best team. He has said this in the past. They play like they think they are the most talented. It looked like it last night, didn't it? And that went a long way. McCormick was a problem inside. You saw it. Villanova's run at the end of the first half came when Mitch Lightfoot was in the game and McCormick was out. They did a great job, I thought, of spreading the ball out, and guys recognized, when they were out in the perimeter, Villanova was defending them, that when they got McCormick on one-on-one situations, they tossed in the post, and he was so effective tonight. This was the McCormick we wanted to see. The Baycott, it's going to be a different kind of challenge, right? Armando Baycott is a different kind of animal, and I would expect that the workload for David McCormick is going to be more on the offense or crashing the glass, really, on the defensive end. We'll preview that matchup tomorrow, especially as well. But at least for right now, I think the story's got to be how well he played, how he showed up in that moment, how Oshai Abaji only hit 4 threes all tournament, hit 6 in this game. How Christian Brown gave him 10 in the second half. DeJuan Harris gave him those 3 threes. Jalen Wilson gave him some tough baskets as well. Only 5 points for Kansas off the bench. They didn't even need the 5 points off the bench. Their starters showed up big time right now. All right, so that's Kansas, national championship game. We talked about what it means for the Big 12. We'll have a preview of that game tomorrow and talk more. One more break, and we'll hit on the big game of the night last night, Duke and Carolina. First, quick word from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline and BetOnline.net. If you guys want to get in on the national championship action, you guys should go to BetOnline and BetOnline.net today. They've got the best odds, scores. They got WrestleMania odds if you guys want to bet on that for night 2 of WrestleMania. Saw Stone Cold come back last night. Saw Cody Rhodes return last night, which was fun happening during the Final Four as well. But make sure you guys go to BetOnline and BetOnline.net today to get in on all of that. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right, North Carolina 81, Duke 77. Coach K has been KO'd from the tournament. My pick for the championship coming into the weekend, I told you guys I thought Kansas was going to play North Carolina, the national championship game. Voila, there you go. Your boy was making you guys some money this weekend, hopefully. What happened? This was a terrific game, right? This was a back-and-forth game the entire way. The difference in the end in a game like that, honestly, was free throws. Like, Caleb Love was hitting his free throws in the end. Brady Manek, I think he hit 1 free throw down the stretch that was important. So this game was turning. It felt like it was in a bad spot when Baycott went out. But these Duke Carolina games, I said this earlier in the year, the first two were outliers with how they were not close. These games are normally very close. This game was right up that alley. I think the largest lead was 7 for Duke at one point, and immediately North Carolina went on a 13-0 run. They cut the lead, or they put their own lead at 6. Who are the really the main players in this game? Caleb Love goes 11 for 23 for 10 from deep. RJ Davis scores 18 points. Armando Baycott was 3 of 10 from the field, but he had 11 points and 21 boards, including 8 offensive rebounds. He's just such a menace on that part of the court. And, only, let's see, 13 minutes from the bench in total from Carolina. This was an effort all from their starters last night. I thought Banchero was a lot of fun to watch, 20 and 10 for him. Trevor Keels was great off the bench. He gave them 19 points. But down the stretch, Manic had a difficult night generally, but he got open a few times, and Brady's a really confident shooter, and you saw him just catch and release so quickly. He got to his spots and just no hesitation, and he hit some big threes. Hit one, I think, under 3 minutes left to go in the game, under 2 or 3 minutes left to go in the game. He was 3 for 6 from deep, ends up having 14 points and 4 boards. Had some tough boards in there as well. And +9 in the rebounding margin. Mark Williams in foul trouble was huge as well. They got into foul trouble early and often, and that was something that was a big factor. He only gets to play 17 minutes. Theo John, 4 fouls in the first half. And actually, when John went out of the game and Duke went small, things kind of went their direction. Did not see a whole lot of that zone from Duke because you cannot play zone against this Carolina team. They will rip you to shreds if you play that zone. It's just not going to work against a team that would have identified it that fast, and it's got shooters like that. Between Davis, Love, and Manic, those 3 guys, you're not going to be able to do it. Leaky Black also hit a 3. I think at least 1 last night. He hit 2 last night. Leaky Black did. Hadn't hit a 3. I think what Jim Nance say since I think he said he hadn't hit a 3 since February 28th, and he hit a pair of them last night, so that was important for North Carolina. But Hubert Davis, that team never was down. They were never out. They were ready for the storm, and Carolina knocks off their biggest rival a second time in a massive game for Coach K. This doesn't stain his legacy at all. He's the best modern basketball coach I think there is. 5 titles, Olympic success with the national team, coached all kinds of players, NBA type guys to championships, NBA current players to gold medals, non-NBA caliber players to national titles. This guy is a great coach. He's always been a great coach. I thought they stepped it up this year. But Carolina, man, just down the stretch, had a little bit more in the execution department, had a little bit more in the effort department. Armando Baycott getting hurt, going to the locker room. He must have had a moment where he's like, what the hell am I doing? Getting my ass back out there. That kid's a warrior. He's a warrior. He's a real tough player. I love watching Armando Baycott play basketball. It's a pleasure to watch that kid go out there and fight his ass off the way he did. So I hope you guys enjoyed that game as much as I did. But I think Hubert Davis deserves a lot of credit. I know, I've been pretty vocal. I'm not a huge Coach K guy. Thought he was really gracious after the game, despite the fact that his team didn't go and shake hands. He shook every hand and was really complimentary of his players because I thought Carolina was awesome. I thought it was a war, and they just came up short. I thought Duke was awesome, and they just came up short. And that happens. That does happen in college basketball and in sports. But this is a back and forth affair. And look, Carolina just made a couple more plays down the stretch. It was a back and forth game, and the team that had a little bit more experience gets the job done. So now your final is Kansas versus Carolina in the Roy Williams Bowl. We'll have a full breakdown of that coming tomorrow. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. You guys can follow me at JoshNeighbors_. Find us wherever you guys get your podcasts. You guys can find us on YouTube as well. Till next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.